a young princess named Deianira became his wife. He traveled to many lands and did many other great deeds. At Troy, he rescued a maiden who was in the same plight as Andromeda, waiting on the shore to be devoured by a sea monster which could be appeased in no other way. She was the daughter of King Laomedon, who had cheated Apollo and Poseidon of their wages after, at Zeus's command, they had built for the king the walls of Troy. In return, Apollo sent a pestilence, and Poseidon the sea serpent. Hercules agreed to rescue the girl if her father would give him the horses Zeus had given his grandfather. Laomedon promised, but when Hercules had slain the monster, the king refused to pay. Hercules captured the city, killed the king, and gave the maiden to his friend Telamon of Salamis, who had helped him. On his way to Atlas to ask him about the golden apples, Hercules came to the Caucasus, where he freed Prometheus, slaying the eagle that preyed on him. Along with these glorious deeds, there were others not glorious. He killed, with a careless thrust of his arm, a lad who was serving him by pouring water on his hands before a feast. It was an accident, and the boy's father forgave Hercules, but Hercules could not forgive himself, and he went into exile for a time. Far worse was his deliberately slaying a good friend in order to avenge an insult offered him by the young man's father, King Eurytus. For this base action, Zeus himself punished him. He sent him to Lydia to be a slave to the queen, Omphale. Some say for a year, some for 3 years. She amused herself with him, making him at times dress up as a woman and do woman's work, weave or spin. He submitted patiently, as always, but he felt himself degraded by this servitude, and with complete unreason blamed Eurytus for it, and swore he would punish him to the utmost when he was freed. All the stories told about him are characteristic, but the one which gives the clearest picture of him is the account of a visit he made when he was on his way to get the man-eating mares of Diomedes, one of the 12 labors. The house he had planned to spend a night in, that of his friend Admetus, a king in Thessaly, was a place of deep mourning when he came to it, although he did not know. Admetus had just lost his wife in a very strange way. The cause of her death went back into the past, to the time when Apollo, in anger at Zeus for killing his son Aesculapius, killed Zeus's workmen, the Cyclopes. He was punished by being forced to serve on Earth as a slave for a year, and Admetus was the master he chose, or Zeus chose for him. During his servitude, Apollo made friends with the household, especially with the head of it and his wife Alcestis. When he had an opportunity to prove how strong his friendship was, he took it. He learned that the 3 fates had spun all of Admetus's thread of life, and were on the point of cutting it. He obtained from them a respite. If someone would die in Admetus's stead, he could live. This news he took to Admetus, who at once set about finding a substitute for himself. He went first quite confidently to his father and mother. They were old, and they were devoted to him. Certainly one or the other would consent to take his place in the world of the dead. But to his astonishment, he found they would not. They told him, "God's daylight is sweet, even to the old. We do not ask you to die for us. We will not die for you." And they were completely unmoved by his angry contempt. "You, standing palsied at the gate of death, and yet afraid to die.